Today we have Jono Luk with us. He is the Chief Product Officer at SumerSports. He mainly works at the intersection of data analytics and AI. He's also an executive in residence at the UW Foster School of Business, and he's had significant roles at Cisco and Microsoft, some of which I've had the pleasure of working with him at. Often working at the intersection of strategy, innovation, and product, a super fun place to be. Jono, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Elizabeth.
Super excited to reconnect here and for the audience to hear more about what you're up to these days. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do? What do you love about what you do?
I think the first thing I'll say is learning is a lifelong journey. I've always believed that. And we were saying this earlier, I'm in a whole new space. Like I've always been tech, big tech, small, but football's something I watch. It's interesting. It's not something I knew. And so applying data, AI, all those to sport, that's what I'm doing half the time. And I get to nerd out because at SumerSports, we have a ton of folks with real experience from the NFL, NCAA. So half the day is story time. Don't tell my boss that. It's like I get to see and hear, learn, and then ask that question of how can we help them do it better? At the end of the day, that's really what AI is about, is how can you help folks get what they need to get done faster? Someone told me this and always repeat it. She said to me, if it means I can leave work at 5 and see my kids in their performance or sports, like I am all for it. And so for me, like that's the AI promise, right? What took you 10 hours can now take you 4. And so it's looking at how we can make sport better, players better, teams better, and more fun to watch.
Okay, so this makes me want to go in a bunch of different directions. One, makes me think about Moneyball right away. Because So are you the Moneyball of football? Let's talk about that.
So you say that, and I laugh because everyone asks that. And the answer is yes, to a certain extent, right? What I think is really magical is if you and I watch something, there's a fact. When a scout watches the same thing, they actually have a bias on it. You revere a scout because they have a gut sense. Like they can see what other people can't see. I call that bias. It's their opinion on a fact. There's so much in that gut because they've been trained. They do it. That's what we're trying to unlock. So it's actually a little different than Moneyball, but it's the same general idea, right? How do we look at the gut sense, the bias, and apply that at scale? Because there's only so many scouts out there. So how can we help teams? Also, humans just take time to do stuff. So not only do you not have enough scouts, and it takes time, you can't solve every problem for every team all the time. So that's where the AI, the data, those pieces come in, right? Technology comes in to accelerate it. So yes, you're right. It is Moneyball to a certain extent, but bringing it to teams, but also players. There's 1 million kids playing high school football in this country, granted, all different grades. Some of them will make it into college and some of them will make it into pro, but not everyone gets a fair shake. And so it's also really cool by solving some of that and bringing technology. Now a kid that's in some corner of North Dakota, Iowa, where they may not get discovered otherwise, but using technology, we can connect them to teams, right? Coaches, recruiters. And so that's a fun part of what we're thinking about as well, is democratizing sort of the getting discovered play for players. So that's the 2 halves of the mission.
Okay, that's really cool. I like this idea of technology. To me is most valuable, most important, and most interesting when it's bringing humans together and allowing humans to be more human. So your whole idea of, can we offload some of the more grunty stuff and allow humans to focus more on the human side of it, bring together humans in another way. So that's really cool. It sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yes, 100% that. Technology it's tools. It's tools to help us do things faster, do more things. So 100%. And then in our case, we just happen to apply it to sport.
Yeah. Okay, that's really cool. There's obviously some elements and threads to things that you've done in your other facets of your career, but this is also a big change. Talk to us about what made this change and what brings you to this whole new world.
Yeah, so you mentioned it. I was at Microsoft for 14 years, at Cisco for 6 in total. I took a quick detour to go to a healthcare data startup. And then now, one thing I've always loved, and I've learned about myself, I love to create. And I use the word unlock. Because it's what unlock means that something wasn't possible before, and poof, now it suddenly is, right? But there's a feeling about the unlock. When you turn the key and it clicks, like I always describe it, it's that click sound. You unlock something. And I realized, you know what? There's a chance to do that. I also wanted to create a company. So be part of the creation of that. And I was like, the best way to do it is to go to a startup that's early on and try and create that unlock on so many levels. And I've been fortunate. One of the things that I really believe is Progress and success, it's right time, right place half the time.
Mhm.
I happen to still be in a place where I have a really great network of people. My now boss, CEO of the company, I've known for a long time and trust. And so when she said, "You want to try this out?" Looked at the space, looked at the thing. I'm like, I can unlock stuff there. Let's do it. So that's how I ended up here. And I jokingly said earlier, and every day is a learning day. I know data, I know security, I know technology, I know AI. I'm learning football. And so it's as much learning as it is doing, which is really cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. Okay, so I wanted to have you on this podcast for a couple of reasons. One, you're super fun, super smart, but also I like the fact that you've seen a bunch of different aspects. You've done startup, you've done mega corporation, you're in between right now at a different size organization. I'm really obsessed with this whole concept that culture breeds innovation. And if you want to be innovative as an organization, as a group, you have to start with culture. From your perspective, how have you seen that manifest in different ways across your career?
Yeah, I hope this doesn't sound cliche, but I really do believe you have to be ready. You set yourself up for success, but you have to be ready for failure. Meaning you have to give yourself the room, clarity of what you're trying to solve, but give yourself the room to try it. So
Yeah.
AI is a perfect example. You've worked in AI for years, right? It's not linear. With AI, you unlock things and you suddenly jump up and then you get the next thing. And to get that kind of step function, you have to give yourself the room, the willingness to fail and the room to try. And so something we've actually done internally at SumerSports, we call it Sumer Brain, it was exactly that. We were like, let's give ourselves a time box. Let's try it. Let's put a bunch of smart people in the room and see if we could do something.
Mhm.
95% of the time, nothing will come of that. But if it's that 1 to 5%, right? Something good happened, and it did. And so that culture of being willing to give a little bit of space and see, right? If you don't give it a chance, you'll never know. That's
Yeah.
so core. That's how you unlock innovation and all those. We're sometimes afraid to do that in bigger companies. Ironically, you can more afford to do it, but because you have all those, you remember this, customers that need this for that, it's fiscal year, and so there's a
Need it
rigidity to you
yesterday.
sometimes. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's too easy to forget to allow that, and then so you end up, you still do great stuff. You still have this incremental progress, right? But that step function sometimes is harder to do. So that's why it went
Mm,
smaller, right? But if it went the other way, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. But
fair
I
enough.
think that's what's exciting, right? That unlock,
Yeah.
again, all of a sudden something's happening.
So do you have any stories of that? Because I'm sure you have experience either good or bad trying.
This is not a long enough podcast for the long list of failures that Jono has made.
We just want some
But there are,
highlights. What are some top ones?
yeah, I'll give an example. It was probably mid 2010s, right? I was at Microsoft and there was a particular project. I'm not going to refer to it, but we had a crossroads. We could do it this way or do it that way. And I was part of the project team at the time. I was early in my career as a manager, kind of a thing. And so I had a couple folks, and we were given the room to try something, which I'm always thankful for. That was the first time that I was allowed to fail. Allowed to fail spectacularly. But the point is, there was such a lesson. And when you look back and you go, what happened? So even if you
Right.
can't succeed, which is good for the business if you succeed, the lesson learned from how to fail better, how to stop it sooner. That was actually the big lesson for me then was we should have asked questions earlier, had more incremental milestones. We were so enamored by like the whole problem being solved. We could have cut it short 2 months earlier out of a 6 month run. And so
Yeah.
that was actually, again, just generically speaking or abstractly speaking about it, but that was something that I always have taken to heart, right? Give yourself the room to fail, but have the signs along the way where we are veering way off course. I don't know if that's what you were getting at,
Yeah.
but
No, I like that because I love the keep them as simple and
yeah,
small as possible. Have these minimum viable options that you're trying to hit along the way, have mini milestones so you can have those points where you're doing the course correct rather than wait and then fail spectacularly later. Next time
yeah.
around, can
No,
you fail faster?
and this is but this is the part where I always contradict myself too. Sometimes you do need to wait a little bit longer. And this is the experience part. AI, again, I always say AI is not linear. Like it's
Yeah.
this bam, something happened. There's also that experience and gut of if waiting 2 more weeks, could that unlock it?
Mhm.
So we don't prematurely cut it off. That's
Right.
hard. That is still
Yes,
hard. And that's
finding that
40%
magic line, and it's different every time. And you're
exactly.
reminding me a lot about kids and raising children. The growth is not linear. Yeah,
Yeah,
same
yeah,
lesson over and over, and then finally it sticks. And yeah,
that's right.
absolutely. Oh, that's very cool. Okay, Is there some wisdom you would give yourself, your younger self, in this whole process? Would it be allow yourself that failure, give yourself more grace than that? Would it be, what would you tell yourself if you're just starting out in this field or you're earlier on in this process?
I wish you told me that question so I could have a better answer for you. But no,
I like to just make up questions on the
on my
fly because
feet,
I
on my
never know how
feet.
these conversations are going to go. So I didn't know I
Uh,
was going to ask you that.
it's a good one. It's a good one, right? I think the thing I wish that I could have told me when I started all this is that it's okay to fail. I
Mm,
think a lot of folks, especially entering competitive fields like technology in general, are so obsessed either about career growth, financial. There's always something driving the need to grow. Failure makes it feel like you're not going to hit that mark, whatever your goal is, right? Again, you're looking at it, I want to get there. Failure will drop you lower. And so people don't realize it's okay to drop that, make that drop, just make it up later. I think maybe that's what I would say. Again, it's
yeah.
not a straight line. Careers aren't straight lines. I've been promoted and not demoted, but scope change because of reorgs. It's okay. Like you'll
Yeah.
get there on average. Just make sure the average gets you to your goal. I
Yeah.
think is maybe the way to put it.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next? What do you want to learn next? You're obviously learning
So
football now, but what else?
I'm having a ton of fun learning sport, football, something I want to eventually still get back to, both because there's like an altruistic side, is healthcare. So
Yeah.
I'm on the board for a nonprofit here in Seattle. We deal with mental health and substance abuse. There's just so much need, Elizabeth. There's
Yeah.
so much need, and it's not going to change. And I really do think that somewhere in that hole of the mental substance abuse, technology can make a difference. It made a big difference in mental health. Actually, COVID was the forcing function, telehealth. And what we
Yeah.
saw was it unlocked for a lot of people a willingness to reach out and ask for help because virtual felt less stigmatized than in person.
Yeah.
So that's such a great example. Unfortunately, it took COVID for that to become the norm, but we see people willing to reach out now. I refuse to believe that we can't find other things like that that unlock a whole new
Mm.
kind of improvement right across substance abuse, mental health. So at some point, I promise you, before I'm done here on Earth, I'm going to be part of something that unlocks something in that space. That's my goal.
So what are you most excited about in that space? Is it AI applications? Is it in the analytics side? Is it more just, is it some of this removing a stigma and making it more accessible? What's your focus?
Yeah, I think maybe a bit of the data analytics and then also the stigma. For sure, the stigma part, right? That I can't
Mm,
tell you how often that is the number one thing that gets in people's way. Ironically, data, did you know that there's 100 other people like you that are looking for help can actually reduce that
yeah.
stigma? I'm not alone, right? That's
Right.
a theme that helps. But the data and analytics, like this is a great example. Remember when the internet was born, everyone was logging so much data, petabytes of data. No one knew what to do with it. But then we got back to it and realized there's a lot of stuff in there. Like
Mhm.
when I was at Microsoft, we built our internal tools to analyze data, and we realized, holy moly, we can learn so much. Healthcare, that's what's happening now. Sports, that's what's happening. So you want to generate data and analytics because even though you don't know what to do with it today, tomorrow someone could come in. So it is making sure that we're capturing the right information because tomorrow someone could figure something out with AI, with something
Yeah.
else. I think that's a big one, but also not to flood the internets with all the data that's useless for right now.
So I see data analytics as such like the sleeping giant right now with AI because AI is allowing so much more access to information and pulling
Yep.
together information, but then we're struggling a little bit with that. Okay, it's too much. What do we do?
Yep.
So there's a lot of potential there.
There is. And the thing that makes me a little sad is I subscribe to this daily newsletter that talks about tech and all this. And a couple of weeks ago, there's an article talking about people, they're cooling off of AI more that they haven't seen the promise that was promised of AI.
Yeah.
Your point, half of it's the data is siloed, it's not the right data, all of this. And we're losing because of that. People are not that hot on AI anymore. That's sad because the promise is still there. It's other things that are reducing our ability to maximize the potential of AI. Flip side, we got to get our arms around AI because it can do bad things if people make it do bad things. I always believe in that balance for sure. But Yeah, it makes me sad a little bit that people are losing their hope on AI. I can't remember the term, it's escaping me. Disillusionment
Mm,
with AI.
the
I
trough
was
of
told it would
disillusionment.
do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I,
Yes.
I was like, I know there was a three-part term. They're like, oh, I was promised this and it's not doing that. But when you look at it, it's actually not the AI part. It's the
Right.
data, wrong data, it's shaped wrong. That said, I actually think there's an opportunity now for tech to solve that problem too.
Mm,
Can you make it have people focus on making it easier to use the data? Like people just focus on the AI and not everything that's needed for it. So I think
yeah.
that'll be the shift. And that's where if people are watching, there's opportunity there, data, compliance, all of that,
Right.
right? Because the promise is there. We know it can do it. It's just not doing it. And that's why people are going, we spent a lot of time and money. Is this thing for
Yeah.
real? And
Yeah.
to get bake cake with bad flour, it's not going to be good. So you gotta find a way. I just because cake on Tuesday, I thought I would throw that. I was like, I have to throw that out there somehow.
I
Um,
appreciate that. The check will be in the mail for later.
that's right. That's right. But yeah, that's my honest take on it.
Okay. I also love the way that you kept using unlock, because that's in my subtitle, unlocking corporate innovation, because
Yeah,
it's such a powerful imagery, I think, for describing it. I think
it
there is
is.
so much potential with technology to unlock capabilities, to unlock humanity, to unlock connection. And it's just the fact that right now we're in the best technological age we've ever experienced, and people feel more disconnected than they ever have. There's a problem with that. And
Yeah,
I do think even if we've created that problem with technology, it can help us fix it too.
yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes the problem is the incentive to fix
Yeah.
isn't always there. And that could be financial, it could be social, cultural, but that's the real question I think we sometimes have to ask is, are the incentives mismatching so that they're actually exacerbating a problem, not addressing a problem?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Okay. I have one more culture question I want to ask
Yep.
you, and then I'll give you an opportunity to let people know how to get in contact with you and find you. We talked a little bit about culture breeding innovation. I told you I'm kind of obsessed with that whole area. Is there a certain item, quality, something that you look for? And you've worked in a lot of different environments. You've worked on very innovative teams and very emerging technology spaces. Sometimes you have that sort of, it seems like magic. Everything comes together, the team is innovating, things are working. With that sort of culture lens, is there anything that you notice that you look for when you're coming into a new organization or a new engagement with a new partnership? How do you pinpoint, okay, I think this is going to work? There's some magic here. From your perspective, what does that look like?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I always try to count how many before I say them. There's a couple things, and we'll see how many it was in the end. The first is resilience, I think. This goes back to the kind of willingness to fail, pull yourself by the socks, get on to the next thing. That's so critical because otherwise you're going to lick your wounds for a while and miss the train, right? You might not
Yeah.
get onto that. So that's one kind of characteristic, I think, of the people, but also the company, right? Saying that's okay, just go fix it. So that's that one. I think the other, I don't want to call it agile because that's such an overloaded term, but in the same way you try something, it failed, it's the ability to pivot, right? So that's different than resilience. Resilience is
Mm,
recovering, I think, from something. Agility or whatever, that kind of readiness to pivot, to respond is the other.
mm.
So I think those
I
are
like
two
that
very,
nuance. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I promise I didn't plan that. That was not some like big or sticky note I wrote. The third one I think is just it's hunger. It's hunger of the people because if everyone's hungry to solve the same thing, like you'll work through anything,
Yeah.
but you need to want it. That doesn't mean working 21 hours a day. I coach and mentor a lot of folks. They go, how can I be hungry without working? I'm like, these are two different things. It's the
Hmm.
gusto you bring to it, right? People often tell me, I just talk a lot with my hands, literally the last bit
I'm
here.
Italian, Jono. I'm
Yeah,
Italian.
there you go. I'm like sometimes for certain folks, it's just how you communicate, but it expresses an energy or like an excitement about a topic, right? Like that's what I mean is be excited about it. That's why you have to love what you do, right? That's that
Yeah.
other adage from before. But that third one is like energy, hunger, a want, because it's easy to overcome and pivot and recover if you're hungry for something, right? That outcome. I said those are the things I look for when I think about a team.
Yeah.
Could be hiring someone for the team or joining, right, a new company, a new team altogether.
Yeah. That's great. All right, Jono, I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm and your optimism. If people want to hear more from you, learn more about you, connect with you, how can people find you?
Best thing to do is LinkedIn. I'm Jono Luk. This is the face you will find. It's in black and white. It's Consumer Sports. That's probably the easiest way. And then we do conferences. I've spoken at conferences and stuff before. Feel free to look it up. If you agree, disagree, or otherwise, please let me know. I actually enjoy going back and debating and telling people how, oh yeah, I was wrong. You're right. I was wrong. This is what happened. But yeah, so I would say LinkedIn is a good one there. And it has all my contact info.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It was always a
Yeah.
pleasure to see you. Really enjoyed the
You as well.
conversation. Cheers.
It's good to see you. See you,
Bye-bye.
Elizabeth.